Hi, thanks so much for joining me on the Everything and Anything in a Bit Gay podcast. I'm your host, Zach Randles-Friedman. I just finished doing my LGBTQ plus news podcast. It's called Listen Up, Girl. If you don't know what that is, it's a podcast that I do. I'm doing about 6 days a week now on average, where I go through LGBTQ plus news headlines and tell a little bit about the story. And I try to do it in less than 10 minutes. So just giving you a snapshot of news. It's all fact checked. I'm not giving you fake stories. I throw my opinion in there sometimes about things, but it's really important that I think we do that, because sometimes it's hard for me to actually want to do that podcast because of all the negativity that's out there in the world today. I mean, if I wasn't doing that news, I wouldn't even know the amount of bills that have gone into the House and Senate for voting against LGBTQ people. I think it's about 647, or is it 697 that have gone in since last year, since the start of 2025, that are, a lot of them are anti-trans, and that they're trying to, basically take rights away, take away gender-affirming care, taking away healthcare benefits. Now, I read a news report today where they have gone to Stonewall in Monument in New York City and taken down the pride flag. That is where the LGBTQ plus revolution began. That's where you had people protesting after a police raid, and they fought back because LGBTQ plus people did not have equal rights. And because of the people fighting back and protesting, that's why we do have the rights that we have today. And to take down the pride flag there, it just seems like a real punch in the face. But luckily, it's happening in New York, and New Yorkers are not going to let that happen. They're going to do everything they can to make sure that pride flag stays up, because it's back up now. And I think that the government has to really start taking a look at the things that they feel are important. Because taking a pride flag down at a monument that is for the LGBTQ plus community, it just makes zero sense. That's what you're focusing on. You're focusing on taking down a pride flag. It seems like there's so many more things that we could be thinking about and fixing in this world instead of worrying about a pride flag in New York City. I also just, as I read some of this news, it shocks me still how some of these right-wing, and I'm sorry I'm getting political, and I try not to get political on this podcast ever, but once in a while I need to get a little political because that's just the world we live in. But it kills me that these right-wing Christians put all this energy into hating the LGBTQ plus community. It's beyond me why they will support a 34-count convicted felon, but they don't want to let people who love each other just let them love. It's not hurting them. Me loving my husband and being married to my husband does not hurt anyone. No one at all. But somebody that has been convicted of 34 felons, that's hurt some people. There's a whole Epstein file cover-up. More and more information comes out about that. You're talking about how many people survived or didn't survive that entire Epstein scandal. It's beyond me that we're trying to pretend that some of that doesn't happen, and we're redacting files still, and it feels like the never-ending case to me. But I'm just glad that I live in a state right now that's liberal and accepting of who I am as an LGBTQ plus person in the community and married to my husband. And this is one of the first states that gave rights for marriage. And I just feel very grateful and thankful that I live here. And that's how I'm feeling today. I feel exhausted sometimes from all this anti-LGBTQ plus stuff, but I am going to keep doing the news because I think it's important that we all stay informed and we can all know what's happening in our community. So if you haven't subscribed to that podcast, please do. But let's get into my guest today, because somehow he popped up on my feed on Instagram, and I looked at his post, and he is a fellow podcaster. Um, and I just was looking at his content, and I just that he had on his Instagram account, and I liked it. It resonated with me. It's topics that I talk about. He's married. Him and his husband have an open relationship. I wanted to talk about that. And he just started his own podcast, and I'm into it. I'm into what he's doing. He's doing in-person interviews at the moment only. He's got his shit together. He's a good-looking guy. His husband's a good-looking guy. They just did a podcast, the two of them together, that he released, and talking about the relationship. But he's very authentic. That's what I like about him. There's just a good vibe and an energy. His name is Aidan. I hope you enjoy the interview and listen to his podcast. Subscribe to it, because I think you'll probably see the same thing that I'm saying. It's like, we need those authentic voices. We need people to talk about their relationships. We need people to talk about what their life is like, just to help people, so people are entertained, not just by, all the pop culture stuff, but about real lives. And that's what Aidan's doing. So thanks so much for listening to my podcast, and enjoy my interview with Aidan. Thanks for joining me on the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. I'm your host, Zach Randles-Friedman. Today, I have found a new person who I have wanted to interview for the last couple of weeks. He came across my Instagram feed, and I took a look at his profile, and he's got a brand new podcast, and I love promoting people that want to do podcasts. So welcome to the show, Aidan.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Aidan Wharton, you have, I didn't even realize until I did some research on you last night that you actually are an actor as well.
Yeah, I used to be, for sure.
Okay.
I say that I sort of checked all of the boxes that I wanted to check in my acting life. And then once those boxes were checked, I thought, okay, what do I really want to do next? And podcasting and writing is sort of where the cards landed.
Awesome. Did you start off on Broadway?
Yeah. So, it took a while to get there, but I went to school for theater. I did some regional stuff. I did the national tour of Wicked. And then post-COVID, I came back and I did Girl from the North Country on Broadway, which is this folksy Bob Dylan musical, and did a couple movies. And then I did the national tour of Girl from the North Country again. So I took that out on the road. And once I came back, I told myself that I was going to let my boredom dictate what I wanted to do next. The Broadway experience was so wonderful. And I remember when my agents called me, I was like, wow, I feel so relieved. I did it. Yeah. I checked that box. And once I came back from tour, I started really putting a lot of energy into writing. And I found that that was where my energies wanted to go on Substack. And then once I realized that I could sort of pay my bills through that, which I feel like is a huge gift, I put all of my focus there. And then just recently launched my podcast, Getting Close, about a month ago.
So tell me what inspired that.
I feel like, everyone is their own little empire right now. And I had some friends who were talking to me about my writing and who I felt like I was. Every brand strategist is always like, what's your thing?
Yeah.
And over the course of doing that really intense self-learning, I thought, what it always comes back to, no matter what I write, no matter what I talk about, no matter what I talk to my friends about, it is always coming back to connection. And I'm an avid lover of technology. I used to work at the Apple store. I used to always really want to know what was the next advancement. I think technology is so cool. I'm a huge science fiction nerd. And yet, in the past couple of years, I just can't stop thinking about all of the ways in which technology is driving us apart. And so that, paired with connection, paired with how much I love the queer community and the gay community, I thought there's got to be something here. So how can I model connection? So it's curiosity, connection, and community are my three pillars.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring really fascinating people on the show to then give actionable ways for the listeners to have more connection in their lives by improving all of their relationships, not just, I think we really often focus just on romantic relationships to the exclusion of friendship and acquaintances and broader community and how we fit into society. And so I really was feeling driven to find some incredible people, and it's been a really exciting journey so far.
Amazing. So, I've said the story a few times in my podcast, but I so agree with you on the connection thing about how technology is like tearing us all apart. So I go to Provincetown almost every year with a group of friends, and they're from all over. They're from New York City. I live in Boston. Some, they're from one's from Dallas, or a couple were from Dallas. I mean, they're kind of from everywhere. And there's one year there were 10 of us at dinner, and I'm like sitting there. They're all on Grinder. I'm not on Grinder. I've been in a relationship for 27 years, and we're not open. And they're either single or they were open.
Sure.
But we were sitting there like, we don't get to see each other all that often anymore because we're all living in separate cities. Philadelphia is another city that people were in. And I'm just like, what's going on? Like, why is everybody on their phone? You're just looking for the hookup. And that's what they were doing. They were just like looking for the next hookup. And I'm like, but like we're making memories here. And I sound so old saying that, but I'm like, don't you want to spend time and chill and hang out together and laugh and stuff? And they're like, why don't you get on Grindr? It would be fun. I'm like, because what I like to do is I like to take their phones and then I like to go on Grindr and like
have fun,
message people and find people. That's, and send stupid messages to guys. And I just like, I felt so like disappointed in that dinner. Even today, like it's been a year and I still feel disappointed in that dinner because we were not connecting.
Right. And I am so like aware of that, especially in my own friend group. And I'm grateful that my friends are, I would say, half respectful and half afraid of me in that context. Yeah. Even in college, I had a friend who was like, Aidan, sometimes it's really hard to watch movies with you because you get really mad if I have to check my phone. And I'm like, I'm not sorry for that.
God, we would be like best friends then because I'm the same way. God. So my husband, whenever we're sitting there watching like anything, he has his phone. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I wanted to see what role that person played other things in. I know they look familiar. I'm like, look for it afterwards. Oh, I want to see where this film was made. Who cares? Just watch the fucking movie. Like, what are you doing?
Yes, I know. So. It's hard. It's a lot of what I've been researching too is how addictive everything on our phones is. And I think something that I really strive to do with my guests and with my writing is help people understand the way that the platforms are manipulating us. And it is really a fascinating occurrence that like we just aren't as primed to connect with people anymore because people don't feel as good and or comfortable as the things on our phone, So it's like, well, why would I want to go have coffee with somebody I don't know and make, have those uncomfortable silences and figure all of that out when I could just scroll or when I could just stay home and binge Netflix. Like, and I get it. Like, I get how aggressively these companies are trying to capture our attention in that way. And I'm just trying to do my little part to help people find a better way to connect.
Yeah. Do you have rules with yourself even? So I'm horrible at this and I have to break this like starting tonight where I'm on my phone. I'll go to Instagram, then I'm on TikTok, and sometimes I'll get stuck on TikTok and I look at the clock and I was on there for 2 hours. I lost 2 hours of my day on TikTok when there's so many other things I could have been doing.
Yeah. I never got into TikTok.
You're so lucky.
Just on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z, and I always identify with millennial because I didn't download TikTok, or I did. Yeah. Downloaded it when I was on tour with Wicked, and we were in South Carolina. This was back in 2019, and so TikTok thought that I was like into, I guess like comedy and queer baiting and like country bros were like all it fed me. And I just was like, something about this doesn't sit right with me. And then I watched this really incredible video from the Wall Street Journal, I think, that chronicled how quickly TikTok's algorithm learned you. And something like 11 minutes is how long it takes to, and this was 7 years ago, so I'm sure it's much better now. And I was just like, I can't do it. And something about the app interface made me feel claustrophobic. And even as I've been trying to focus on, platforming on the internet, because that's what we all have to do, everyone's like, well, you have to do TikTok. You have to do TikTok. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a try again. And then the board switched over last week. And I was like, it's another thing. And I'm gonna delete that one too.
Yeah.
But
good for
Instagram,
you.
100%.
I think I need to do that as well. I think I just need to just delete it and forget it. So I can't get rid of Instagram, but I can get rid of TikTok.
And Instagram is very much a place where I do business. That's where a majority of the contact is from. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And I at least find myself spending lots of time on Instagram, but at least it's like more in DMs than scrolling. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also because I have this love-hate relationship with it, where I see the patterns it's trying to enforce us into, and I'm like, oh. But I will literally get open my phone and try to remember what I was doing, and then suddenly I'm on Instagram, and it's been a few minutes, and I'm like, no, there was actually something I meant to do here, and it's gone.
Yeah, I got in a habit also of like, I don't know, I'd wake up at 2 a.m, like almost every morning, just to wake. I don't know, I'd wake up. My body's like, it's time to get up for a half hour. And I'd grab my phone, I would look at it, and it's such a bad habit. And so I broke that habit finally, but it's so addicting. It's horrible.
So addicting. I know I finally had to buy an analog alarm clock because I was like, I don't want my phone in my bed.
Idea.
So now my charger for my phone sits right by the doorway to the apartment. And so I'm like, great, I'm home. I just plop it there, and then I can go get it if I need to, but at least it's sort of out of the mental space.
That's actually a brilliant idea. I think I may do that. I may order an Amazon clock tonight.
Yeah. I literally was like, it was like $15 and it doesn't do anything besides alarm and turn it off and snooze. And I'm like, that's all I need.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. You just got married last year.
I sure did.
I want to hear how you met, and I want to hear the whole story. So how did you meet?
Yeah. So we actually met on Hinge back in 2018. And I will plug, I don't know when this will air, but we are going to do like a little Valentine's Day episode of the podcast on February 10th. So if this is after, go check it out with my husband, where we'll talk about all of this as well. But so we met on Hinge, and the first thing that I really was struck by was how quickly he wanted to just meet up. We exchanged a couple messages. He had a picture with one of my friend's girlfriends. And I was like, okay, here's a connection. I messaged that friend and I said, like, hey, what do you know about Casey Garvin? And my friend texted me back and said, you guys should be dating immediately. And I was like, okay. So Casey asked if we wanted to get drinks. I said, yes. And I think that really was a big key component, is that we didn't spend a lot of time chatting. It was, 4 or 5 messages back and forth, made a plan. We met. We had like the best first date. And then we started dating pretty quickly. I think it took us like 3 months to figure out if we wanted to be boyfriends. And then we did that. We did like long distance when I was on tour. We moved in together February 2020.
Wow.
After a year of long distance and COVID, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, that's like perfect timing, actually.
It was perfect.
It could,
for both.
Or it could not have been perfect timing, actually.
So we were like, ooh. Okay, we just went from being our own people for a whole year, like very distinctly, to now being in a 1-bedroom apartment, learning how to share space with each other. Luckily, I grew up in Hawaii and he grew up in New Jersey. So we ended up breaking our lease and doing a bit of time with each family.
Okay.
Which, all things considered, was very lovely. And then coming out of COVID, we broke up, which is always my like fun part of our tale. Yeah. Coming out, we decided that it would be better to live apart again after COVID, since we had spent such an intense amount of time together. And once we got back to New York, we sort of had this like really somber dinner, and we're like, yeah, that was it, wasn't it? I'm like, okay,
wow.
we are. And so we sort of spent that summer like detangling, and then like really being separated and broken up for a while. And then not that one. In the fall, he came back and he texted me and he was like, hey, can we get lunch? And I was like, sure. And so then it really took a lot of intentional repositioning of the relationship. You know, we had had all of these reasons that made us break up. And so we both had our requests for the other person and really intentionally came back together, which I really love. And then in the summer of 2023, we got engaged, which again was like a very mutual decision. Yeah. We had always thought that he would be the one to propose, but then once we started talking about it, I was like, wait, I want to propose too. That sounds so fun.
Yeah.
And he came back with the idea. He said, what if we both get each other's rings and we don't show each other and then just pick a day and give them to each other? And I thought that was really perfect. His best friend was getting married in France. And so we took a couple of days and went to Sitges afterwards. Mm-hmm. And we thought, you know what? Let's do it in Sitges. So we just woke up one morning and we were like, okay, this is it. And we like went out on the balcony with our coffee and exchanged the rings and had like a lovely little day to ourselves before we made all the calls. And I'm like, okay, that's engagement. And then the wedding was, just this past August in Hawaii. It was like a pretty small affair, but we had everyone there for a week and we got to go to my childhood home. I grew up on a yurt, which is very much for my friends. And so everyone got to see the yurt. And we got married like on my neighbor's lawn over the ocean and had dinner at my dad's house. And it was
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was just like so special, and everyone had a part to play. Like my sister cooked and my family helped set up and his family helped set up. And so it just became this really wonderful sort of community event that was just so special. And then we had another celebration here in New York with all of our New York people.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
It's like you were meant to be together, especially, I mean, COVID was a test for anyone, right? I mean, living together, and especially moving in a month before it starts. And then
after a year of long distance, I was like, this is crazy.
You went from like totally opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And then you broke up and then you, I don't know, you were meant to be together. That's that's great.
And it's funny because so much of what we had to figure out, especially at the beginning, is that we just sort of kept feeling like something wasn't actually meant to be, right? Mm-hmm. We kept being like, we feel good, but there are just like a few sort of rough edges that don't like fit together perfectly. And I think what I love that Casey has taught me is that we had both come out of really intense, passionate relationships beforehand. Mm-hmm. And so what we were realizing with each other is that we had this sense of comfort, and we were really good partners and really good teammates. And we sort of mistook that for not being right for each other. And now that we've been together for almost 8 years, which is now 27. But I'm like, oh, like that's what we were feeling. We were actually feeling this like really deep-seated rightness with each other. We just didn't know what to call it yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I went through your Instagram channel and I kind of mentioned a lot of my friends are in open relationships, and you guys had that discussion. So talk to me about like how that came up, because I'm always interested to know. So my story is that we were, 27 years is like so long, and it's not always been unicorns and rainbows and balloons for 27 years. I mean, there's
rarely is.
Yeah, and so. But we did talk about it, not about having an open relationship when we were together like 4 or 5 months, about would we want to have a 3-way with somebody or something like that. And we did have that conversation, and then we talked it through, and then we both realized we didn't necessarily want to see the other person with somebody else. And I don't know. So it just wasn't for us. Mm-hmm. And then, it's just like we've never gone that way. So how did it happen for you? Like where,
Yeah.
and it's even like not just in the gay community, it's common with straight people now, you know?
Oh.
I live in Boston, and, the town I just moved from, which is literally right the town next to us, is called Somerville, and it's got the highest number of, like, open relationships in the country. Like,
Okay, Somerville.
yeah. So it's like our, polyamorous relationships are like, I think there's like, it's like a, I don't know, that there's a local something, or I don't know, there's some local ordinance or something where you can have like with living situations and stuff. Like it's very open. Somerville's very, progressive, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I need to go visit Somerville and talk to some people there. Yeah. The open thing is actually really funny because it has sort of become, through my writing, very much what I talk about most and what I feel really well equipped to talk about. I am the youngest of four. My parents weren't ever open, but they had like a really fascinating relationship. They split and then they moved back in together to raise me, but not necessarily because they wanted to like live together. So they had separate rooms, and it's just always been a navigation, their relationship. And so I learned from a pretty young age that relationships can really look like however you want them to. And so once I moved to New York, then after college, I was like, whoa, there are so many different types of people and types of relationships. And I started dating, single people. I started dating couples. I dated a throuple for a while. And all of these relationships really became the blueprint for all of the ways in which I could have my own relationship. And so when Casey and I started dating, I told him all of this essentially. And I said, I don't know what I want. I'm not saying that I want to be open now. I don't even think we like really used the term open at that point.
Yeah.
But I told him I really want to be able to build a relationship with somebody that is custom to me. I don't want to just inherit these relationship structures that we're told to. I want to like build it, and I want to build it with my partner so that we're both happy and we both are feeling like this is the way that we want to live,
Yeah.
And then I went on tour and we did that year of long distance, and it started to come up then, just the conversation. And I don't really think a ton happened then, but we got really good at practicing the like, hey, I'm maybe going to go out tonight. You're going to be asleep because there's a time difference. If I meet someone cute, can I kiss them? And so we're really good at that communication. And then didn't really open things up until a little while after we got back together after the breakup. And since then, it has really sort of become a pivotal thing that we talk about often. Like even on this Valentine's Day episode we're doing, we asked people to submit questions, and I would say 75% of them were about that.
Yeah.
He and I are really effective communicators, and I just love relationships. I think they're so fascinating, and that combination, I think, allows us to have a really pragmatic view of openness. And while I understand that it's not for everyone and not for deep people, I really find it gratifying to be able to sort of help people through this process. Like I've had a ton of friends come to me and ask questions, a ton of people on Instagram come to me with questions, and it just is still like a really misunderstood thing. All the comments like so negative, and it's actually like makes me laugh because I'm like, wow, our monogamy beliefs are so deeply ingrained that choose whatever relationship you want, but watch people really have really negative opinions about openness. I'm just like, hey, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just helping the people who are curious have better relationships. And even if you're not into openness, just have anyone have a better relationship.
Oh, so like, what were people saying that were? I mean, like,
people in open relationships can't commit, or so much of the conversation around openness is what to do with jealousy and what to do when you're feeling left out. And I personally think that jealousy is a incredible teacher, because jealousy covers up whatever you're feeling underneath that. And so when we started being open, we actually got to have conversations about all of the things that were underneath the jealousy that we never would have talked about otherwise. And it made us really well equipped to say, hey, I'm feeling jealous. If I look under that, I'm feeling insecure about the relationship, and I need a little bit more affection, and I need a bit more love, or I'm feeling left out and I need, to feel a bit more included. Mm-hmm. And all of these in ways that we just wouldn't have talked about otherwise. And so comments online are like, why would I want my partner to feel jealous? Why would I want my partner to feel left out? And, I'm not saying that open relationships are easy. They're very complex and they require so much communication, but they're what worked for me, what worked for him, and what worked for some people. And I do believe that even just having these conversations helps anyone of whatever relationship structure more intentional relationships, which is my goal.
Yeah. My view on open relationships is if it works for you, great.
Right.
But I think I had good friends that were together for 6 years. Mm-hmm. They got engaged. They were going to get married. We all went to Provincetown. They said that they have opened up their relationship. They ended up hooking up with some of my friends that I brought. One of them did, or both of them did, I guess separately. Mm-hmm. And one of them told me, in the trip, I'm pissed off at your friend for hooking up with my fiance. I'm like, you're in an open relationship.
Right.
He told you. And still, one of them actually was not into it. And he didn't want to say it.
Sure.
And the other one was. So that's why it didn't work out. And they ended up breaking up and it's over. So.
Right.
And then a lot of other shit came out after that about
You're and it was more than that, maybe.
Yeah, it was probably more than.
Well, and that's the thing, that always, again, and as I've been doing more research about this and talking to more people about this, that really is the part that comes up, right? Is that if a relationship ends that was open, most of the time the openness is blamed for that.
Yeah.
When what I have found with the people I have talked to and the writing I've done and the research I've done is that actually a lot of times those issues were already there in the first place, may have been illuminated by openness, but the actual cause wasn't related to the openness. Sometimes, of course, you can realize you're oh, I've been with someone for 6 years and now I'm seeing other people, and that can make me realize that certain things aren't right about this relationship.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think that is, if that relationship was meant to end, that doesn't mean the relationship failed. As a culture, we only are able to qualify relationships by the length of time because that's the only measurement that we have. But just because a relationship was short doesn't mean it was failed. Just because a relationship was long doesn't mean it was successful. And so what I have really had to do, especially recently, is really unpack everything that I believe about relationships and just see is it terrible if this thing happens, or is it great, or is it, and just really dissect all of the parts about relationships to see what's underneath it all.
And how do you, so I've done I've done a series on my podcast where I'm doing a series. I've interviewed a few people. I'm doing people in Boston, focusing on them. Because I think the gay community, so I lived in New York for 17 years. I grew up in Miami, so I'm not from Boston originally. And I don't think people here are super friendly in Boston. And living in New York for so long, I felt like people are so much more friendlier.
Yeah.
And I feel like I talk about this a lot on my podcast recently because I'm talking to these people that live in Boston, and some of them are gay. And I'm like, why are the gays so unfriendly here? And they all agree with me. And all my friends that are gay are here say the same thing. I had 2 friends that lived in Boston and moved back to New York because the gays here are just not, they're so cliquey and they're just not into being friendly. They're assholes, actually. So
they're massholes.
Yeah, they're assholes. Yes, I feel like I'm going to get like. Yesterday, I did an interview with a guy who's in Boston who's gay, and we were talking about this same subject, and he was like a little like hesitant to say. He's like, "Oh my god, I feel like we're going to get like canceled." I'm like, "We're not," because they all agree with us because they all know they're assholes.
You're like, that just is what's happening.
Yeah. So my question for you is just like you're living in New York, so like you're meeting your friends. It's not like you've been there for a while now, right?
About a decade. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, if you go back and think about how you met your friends in New York, I'm trying to think how I met all my friends. I guess I just met one and then it just started growing. And then, but like if I was in New York tonight, I could go to any bar, almost any gay bar, and just walk in and say, "Hey, you want to do a shot to somebody who I think's kind of cute?" And they'll say yes. And I've done this a million times. And you walk out and you have their number, their Instagram, you're hanging out next weekend. And it doesn't happen here. Here it is just, they're so closeted. They're just like so closed.
Sure.
Not closeted, closed.
Yeah. I'm like, I haven't really spent a ton of time in Boston. And it is true though that like each city has its own unique flavor.
Yes.
The gift of going on tour was that I got to go to so many cities and we went to the gay bars where we could. I'm like trying to think back to how I ended up making friends and my network. I would say that a majority of it, a lot of it came from college. Like I moved here with the majority of my friends. But all of the friends that I've made recently most of them have been through either like meeting through a friend of a friend or through Instagram or through the internet.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people don't realize or don't want to admit is that making a new friend is really hard, and making it requires so much work and so much intentionality. And again, it goes back to whether or not we stay inside on the couch or go out.
Yeah.
And this past fall, I made a bet with myself, a challenge. I was like, I'm not going to turn down a single social event. And I'm just going to say yes to everything. It was.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
It was a bit much, but it was before the podcast, so I had much more time.
Yeah.
And I like, I'm pretty regimented about my friends. I think friendship is really, really important.
Same.
And I think it's disappearing. I remember these reels that were circulating a while ago that were in praise of the easy friend. The friend doesn't matter if you don't talk to them. Like you can go months without talking to each other and you're still best friends. And while I have a few of those and there is merit in some of that, I just kept thinking, but that isn't actually always what friendship is about. Friendship takes work, especially new friendships. And so
for sure.
Yeah, I'll go to that coffee. I will do that like follow-up text. I always do a follow-up text no matter what. I think people really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned recently too, just ask people. I'm really...
Can I ask how old you are?
I am 30.
So you're going to go through probably what I went through when I hit a certain age. I ended up cleaning house of friends.
Yeah.
Like there was like friends I'm just like, like we were great friends for 10 years, but something just isn't there anymore. And I'm trying too hard. And I don't know. There's just like this whole cleanse of friends that I went through. And it feels really good in a way. It's kind of, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's sad in a way too, but it's also, I don't know. I think it's just like needed sometimes where you got to go through and kind of get rid of the people that aren't giving you what you need in a friendship. Yeah. And you put so much work into that friendship and you're just like, oh, this is exhausting. So it's not worth it.
I had this great acting teacher in college and he would say, do not surround yourself with people who do not turn your leaves green. And I've always sort of remembered that. And actually a new friend of mine who I've made in the past year and a half, I'd say, he and I have talked a lot about how adult friendship in this moment we're in seems to revolve around shared curiosity. And I think that is such a good phrase because I'm like, yeah, like some of my friends from college who are still doing theater or who are in that realm, we don't have the same interests. We don't have the same shared curiosity, and that is okay. And maybe we will down the line, but I'm really trying to surround myself too, especially with this new career path that I'm on, with people who are curious about the same things that I'm curious about.
Yeah. I want to talk a little more about your podcast.
Yeah.
Because I'm so fascinated by it. I want to know, how are you picking your guests, or how are you finding your guests? Because at the beginning of a podcast, I mean, your podcast seems to have a target, where mine was, I want to talk about anything that I want to talk about that I find interesting.
Yeah.
But you kind of nailed it down a little more. So how are you finding your guest?
A big part of it's Instagram. Again, so as of recording, we've released 4 episodes, so still baby. And I knew for the first lineup that I wanted people I really trusted and respected and felt comfortable enough with to fail and play.
Okay.
So my first guest was a friend of mine who started his own queer fitness company. His name's Sam Light, and the company's called Fit. It's a great workout app that he's built, and this like really incredible community. The second guest was a woman I had met at a Hinge event, who's a sex therapist named Shadeen Francis.
Okay.
That was like a really fascinating conversation about relationships. My third guest was in Some Like It Hot with my husband, and so I knew Jay really well. And then my fourth guest, she is incredible. I met her through a Substack event, actually, and she's one of the top investigators of the Epstein files.
I watched some of that, yeah.
And she's so cool. And I think right now, all of it to me feels still really in the vein of connection. Yeah. I think over time, it'll condense and coalesce into something a little more concrete. Mm-hmm. But even still, it's like, connection to community through fitness, connection through relationships, connection through showing up authentically, and then connection through this online community that this woman has built through Substack. So those all felt really clear to me.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing one with my husband, and then there's a couple other fascinating ones lined up for February. And then my producer and I are going to sit down and go, okay, now that we've done sort of chapter 1, shall we? Where do we want to go for chapter 2? And I am constrained by having people in New York at this moment. Like I film right here behind me in the studio.
I was going to ask you that. Are you going to do it online ever?
I am sure I will. A big part of it when I pitched it. So my little team is my producer and my literary agent. So they're they're besties. They're Mike and Kate. They're incredible.
Okay.
And in the beginning, when we were brainstorming, I was like, it has to be in person. That feels very important to me. And then I thought, that's going to cut me off from so many guests.
Yeah.
By that time, I'd already done some outreach, and they were all with people who were in New York anyway. And so it just like really feels lovely to actually be able to talk to someone in person. Not that something like this isn't also so incredible. I'm very grateful for technology to give us the opportunity to connect like this. But after doing a few, I just was like, I like it. I like doing it. It fits with the ethos of the show. And I can film out in advance far enough that if somebody doesn't live in New York but is coming to visit, then, let's do it.
Yeah. I think, I've done some in person when I first started. I like it in person more. It's just that people I just interviewed somebody from Australia this past week. So
that's it. It's like the range is exceptional when you're not in person. And so I think, is there going to be a guest who is absolutely incredible and can only do this time and we hop on Zoom? 100%.
Yeah.
It's also because I'm learning so much because I don't have podcast experience that I'm like, I can't figure out the Zoom part yet.
Don't do Zoom though. We're going to talk off the air, and I'm going to give you all the, I'm going to give you some tips about.
Yeah, I love this. I love Riverside.
Yeah, because Rivers. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Not to get too techy and geeky on the podcast. Do you have like a list of guests that are your dream guest, or that somebody you would really like to have?
I have some dream guests. A lot of them are scientists.
Tell me who they are.
Like there's this woman named Anna Lembke, who she is a researcher and professor at Stanford. She wrote the book called Dopamine Nation.
Okay.
And she's absolutely incredible. All of her work is about addiction and technology. And I think everything that she says is fascinating. Johann Hari, who wrote the book Stolen Focus, he's a journalist. That book is actually fascinating because part of the framing structure that he uses is he went to P-Town for 3 months with no phone and no computer that could connect to the internet, and then wrote about what happened.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so like Vivek Murthy, who used to be the U.S. Surgeon General, who coined the loneliness epidemic, and then it's like, again, I'm like, there are so many ways that you can look at connection. So I have like the science side of things. I have some like really dear celebrity friends who like model connection in their everyday lives who have agreed to be on the show that I'll bring in a little later. And yeah, like cultural forces of connection, you know, advocates and politicians. And I was saying my benchmark, so if she hears this, who knows, is that I would love to have like Sarah McBride on to talk about the midterms. And then hopefully by 2032, oh, that's so far, like the Democratic nominee. You know, I want to get
yeah.
Well, I want to really help people. And there's a podcast called Diary of a CEO.
I love that one. I love him.
Yes. I want to be the gay Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah, he's great. I'm kind of a sciencey nerd also, where I like the kind of all that. There was a woman that, Mayim's Breakdown podcast?
No.
Mayim Beyond. So Blossom, she's a podcast. It's amazing. Look it up. It's called Breakdown. Yeah. Her and a guy named Sean Ryan, who's a popular podcaster.
Okay.
He's not, I don't agree with his politics so much, but I like his guest a lot of times.
Okay.
Because he has like really kind of like people that are part of the CIA or people that are into UFO discovery or paranormal stuff. So he had this woman on named Angela Ford. And so did Mayim. Mayim had this woman named Angela Ford. And so she worked for the CIA and did remote viewing in the 80s. And remote viewing, if you don't know what that is, or for listeners that don't know what it is, basically she could go and they would give her a little information and she could say exactly where people are. She can find people. And she found this guy who was like in the top 10 America's Most Wanted list.
Wow.
And she said, "Oh, he's in Wyoming." And they're like, "No, he's in Florida somewhere. He's in the drug industry. Like, he's not in Wyoming." She's like, "Okay, I'm telling you, he's in Wyoming." And then 2 weeks later, they're like, "Okay, well, tell us more about the Wyoming thing." Well, he's at this hotel near this landmark, and they sent someone there and found him.
Wow.
And she's fascinating. And so I sent her a DM, I found her email online and I said, "Will you come on my show?" And she did. And
wow.
I was so happy. Like she was amazing. So she's so interesting, and she's a psychic, and she teaches psychic classes and stuff. And I took a class with her and stuff.
So
like
cool.
She's so amazing. So it's just like I don't know. I think you should DM or email all those people that you want to interview, because I bet you could get them.
Well, and that's what I've learned recently too, is this like wealth of generosity among people that I think it's really easy to lose sight of.
Yeah.
You know, and even like, again, like when people ask me to come on a podcast, I'm just like, "Oh, wait, that's so sweet. Like, thank you so much." But when I'm like thinking about asking someone, I'm like, like you hem and you haw. And so that's a great message. So thank you.
I have like an advisor that's helping me with he manages a bunch of influencers and podcasters and stuff. Like he's managed some big people, been a manager for big people. And I meet with him once a week, and he basically said, "I want you to like anybody that you think you want to interview, like do it. And I want you to be embarrassed to send them a DM. Like you're like, they're so big, like that's who you," and I don't want my show to be a celebrity show necessarily, but I do want some celebrities that I think they're interesting.
Yeah.
So I came up with Madonna, of course, like those people. And like she's never going to come on, but you never know.
You never know.
But there's other people like Bridget Everett, who is, I don't know if you
Yeah.
I love her, and I feel like maybe I could get her. So
I think
I think I'm going to DM her like almost every day until she finally decides, like, stop DMing me and just like, I'll come on your show, but you don't contact me again because you're a stalker.
That's it. It's the comment. People see comments more than they see DMs.
Yeah, I think I do got to start commenting a little bit more into her stuff. But I just I love people like her. I mean, there's a bunch of
she's incredible.
There's a bunch of celebrities and just people on Instagram that I want to interview. But one day,
I know, like I have Stalter just got on Substack, and I'm like, Meg Stalter, you're incredible. I want you to come on the show. Yeah,
I would love to interview Don Lemon too. Like, just because of like all the shit that he's going through now. But I don't want to get too political on my podcast, so that's the other thing. Is there anything you're avoiding on your podcast that you're like, I want to avoid that, I don't want to talk about that? And it's hard not to talk about politics at all, but and it does come up, but I'm not like going on and saying my political views as much as I would like to.
I'm pretty transparent about my political views and I mean, again, I had this Epstein investigator on, and we talked about a fair amount. But, even before that episode, I told her, you do all these news interviews, like, you talk about this stuff enough. What I'm really curious about is how you stay happy if all you do all day is look through this terrible stuff. What you do as a mother, how you draw these like work-life boundaries, how you parent kids to bring them up in a way that isn't so, like, I was like, I want to ask questions that they haven't been asked before. And not the phrase of like, I want to have questions. I want to have conversations no one else is having.
Yeah.
I do think that what I enjoy about myself, again, I grew up in a really, really small town in Hawaii, and in Hawaii, everybody knows who you are because the world is so small, and what car each family has. So you have to be like, you can't cut someone off because they'll call your mom. Like, it's that insular. And so I was raised with a really strong sense of empathy and respect. And I think that's
awesome.
Helps me have conversations with people that aren't being had as often. I think especially like, there are so many podcasts that are like culture recap podcasts or, all of that. And I was like, I really want to like dive into things that wouldn't necessarily get me canceled, but like actually have conversations where like I might say the wrong thing and from someone, and as setting myself up in that way to be the person who models how to have these complex conversations, I feel like will help my listeners, I hope. And so I do sort of want to get into the nuances of a lot of these things. Like I talk a lot with my friends about queer culture and how the queer community is very divided and what we can do to bring that back together, and have it's about body image and masculinity and all of these things that are really affecting people. We just don't quite know how to talk about it in a way that brings people together.
Yeah.
We're really good at talking about it on social media in a way that's like, hey, gay person, this is what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
And like, I get that is what drives engagement, but I'm like, well, what if we could be like, hey, you're a gay person, like this is something affecting our community and we should really come together to try to figure it out.
Yeah. I love the name of your podcast, and just that you're trying to bring people together and stuff. And, there's a lot, like, especially in today's world, like a lot of people maybe don't feel heard, or they're not feeling connected, or I don't know, they're just not feeling celebrated maybe in a way, or misunderstood. Like, what would you kind of tell those type of people that are having those issues where they're not feeling connection anymore, or they're not feeling celebrated on things that they're doing because maybe they don't feel like they're doing anything amazing, but most likely everybody does something amazing. So what would your message be for them?
The first thing is that they are not alone, that everybody is dealing with so much right now and such great amounts of loneliness and great amounts of anxiety, and we're all spending way more time alone.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I would say is that that's like completely normal. I think everybody right now, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, is struggling with some form of this disconnection.
Yeah.
And the second, like the tagline for the show is, when connection feels far away, we start by getting close. And that's why I wanted to call the show that, is because it's not as big of a hurdle to start feeling better as you think. It's not, I need to make a new friend by tomorrow to feel better about myself. You can just send a text message to someone. You could make a phone call. You could leave a kind comment on someone's picture. Like, I think we get so overwhelmed by feelings of loneliness, and like this happens to me too. But when we really break it down, like, it is just these small actions that we get to take as frequently as we want to, that just bring us a little bit closer to the people that we want to. And it doesn't have to be, we get so caught up in relationship thinking about a romantic partner, but then we lose sight of friends and coworkers and acquaintances and community and, friends with benefits and like all of the other incredible, rich, juicy relationships that can actually make us feel so much more validated and such a nice, deep sense of belonging.
Yeah. Awesome. You have an old soul.
I do. I
love it
to my parents and my siblings. We're all 5 years apart. So it's me 5 years above my sister, and then my brother, and then my sister. And my dad he just turned 80 last year. So I got a
amazing
family.
Yeah. You're just like I think I'm going to predict your podcast is going to be very, very successful, just because I feel a good vibe and a good energy, and I'm rarely wrong about these things. So I think you're going to have a lot of success in it.
Well, thank you so much.
Just make sure though that you kind of like you have a Substack called Gay Buffet, and I'm going to subscribe to that actually after we end this interview, and everybody else should too. And I will put the link to it in the description of this video or podcast, and also to your new podcast called Getting Close. And so everybody should go and listen to it and subscribe to it and all that good stuff. So I'll put all the links in the show notes and everything. But I think the one thing that I want to make sure that you do is that you deliver all this incredible content right now on Substack, and now you're doing it, through a podcast, and just you're going to impact so many people in such a great way. And just make sure that you kind of like step back sometimes and just realize that, because I can just tell that you care about people, you care about the world and stuff, and it's very rare, or it's becoming more rare nowadays. And it says a lot about who you are, and just reflect on that sometimes. That's all I ask.
Thank you. That is like really, I'm getting emotional. It's been a long day. No, I'm getting emotional because that really meant something meaningful to me. I think I didn't realize how hard it would be when I started. And so anytime I get a nice comment, I in my office, I print them out and put them on the wall.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate you saying that.
Well, you're amazing. I can't wait to see where this podcast goes. And like I said, I think it's going to be a super success. And then I can be like, I got you, and you were only in your 4th episode. So.
I mean, come on, look how much you've already. I'm really grateful that you have given me the time and space to get on and talk about it. I think obviously so much of growing a podcast is talking to other people and we are only as strong as the people who help us. And I've received so much help on this, and this interview also has been so much help. So I'm really, really grateful.
Well, thanks so much for being on, Aidan. Again, everybody should go check out Aidan's podcast, Getting Close, check out his Substack, and I will put it all into the description. And thank you so much for being on. And if you haven't subscribed to my podcast and you're listening, be sure to, and go and subscribe to Getting Close as well. So thanks again for being on, Aidan.
Thanks so much for having me.